Chapter 2 Spider or Fly. Starman paused in his step to glance carefully, quietly around. A light breeze blew in through the open windows. Most of the shutter-style wooden window frames were either stuck or cracked open, and the majority of the glass was broken, maybe gone to time. There was no scent on that breeze as it rustled his wispy white hair and the more unruly strands of his beard where they struck out. There was nothing to see all along the way he'd come. The warehouse walls had been stripped bare to show what remained of industrial wiring. Even the insulation that had once been stuffed between those many beams had been removed at one point along with any stray nail. The floor was badly scuffed, again, over time. Thin, settled dust sat untouched except to show where he and his apprentice had trod. This apprehension was just old memories that refused to die, he supposed. I don't see anything, his apprentice noted, seemingly disappointed. He grinned as if to make a joke, but Starben raised a finger, and the grin was drawn back into a more respectful expression. His breath was withdrawn and held at the same time. Faded brown cloaks were tied around the waist with a wide leather band. The pouches sewn at their backs attached to those waistbands hung low enough for quick retrieval of smaller goods when necessary. Collars and sleeves dipped and fell into wide folds up top and below. Traveling pants and flat-soled animal hide boots completed their current garb. Larger packs had been discarded outside, then secured under several layers of protective spell weaving. Starben nodded pensively a moment before feeling a chill. He turned quickly, positive he saw someone there. There was a shape, a mind's image, and he followed it 2 steps to the left. Then it was gone. Had it never been there? Bad memories, or could it be? Ki Sawia Shil, the old wizard quickly whispered while making a quick series of signs with his right hand. His left hand remained on the medium-sized sword at his left hip. Still unable to shake his anxious mindset, but confident the concealment spells were still holding true, Starman sighed, then shook his head. Nor do I, he softly groaned. Concealment spells or not. But I sense something's quite wrong here. His much younger apprentice braved that earlier grin again. I don't know what that would be, the 22-year-old hesitantly joked. When there was no objection this time, he spoke on. Would it be the scorch marks? Smells that curl your nose hairs? Or mucousy trails, maybe? Starben found a sympathetic smile following the young man's pointer finger ahead. The second floor had been broken through to their right just ahead. Where the floor had been crashed down onto the first flooring, nearby wood had been ripped up, sending posts and bins outwards all the way up to the outer wall, which was, of course, broken through. There was fluttering above and speckled light showing the offender had actually dropped from the third or fourth floor to crash down to the first before continuing on outside. By that black scarring around and under that path of destruction with periodic mucousy splatter, it was clear there had been a fight all the way out. There had been 3 similar signs of struggle on the other side of this and the other nearby buildings as they'd come around, casing this warehouse in particular before daring an actual entrance. This definitely does take one back, Starben rued in his gravelly voice. And it's clear they were unsuccessful in killing the beast, or there'd be a petrified remains of an abandoned pyre outside where they'd burnt the corpse. And the smell does hold, as does the darker lore and fear of this place that follows. I did warn you what you'd find. His apprentice smiled sheepishly. You did. Stay alert, Starben warned. I know we haven't seen much more than this sort, but there are too many questions. And there is some merit to the old adage that a place can be too quiet. Starben gestured toward the far end of their current warehouse floor ahead. Stay unseen even if we've yet to find a foe, he insisted with a troubled sigh. And don't forget what's brought us south. Why would they be here anyway? In a place viewed by the average man as tainted and unholy due to its unpleasant history, Starben agreed. Another reason this feels like a trap. Nodding, his apprentice found his own wearied frown and crept on ahead. Starben walked up to that great burned scarring. Kneeling again, he slowly shook his head. There were signs where bedrolls and blankets had been, but they were old too. Clearly dares were held to see who would stay where the beast had once been. That was the lot who'd visit such a place anymore, and it was unlikely any of them had actually stayed the night. Starben pulled a small blue crystal from one of the folds of his belted cloak. Staring into those shimmering lines, he whispered words of change, and the image cast over the crystal surface was no longer his own. That now solid, lighter blue color wasn't reassuring. The youth were near, but there was no image of the 3 they sought. The exact shade of blue suggested only one of the three was present now. What had happened to the other two? They'd sensed three youth before entering. He glanced around again, feeling things were terribly wrong. The greatest question returned first and foremost in his mind. Why would any of you be here of all places, he mumbled, scanning the floor, walls, and ceiling in turn. What would drive you into a building most others eagerly avoid? He hid the crystal away, stood, and made some quick signs. Ovan Ariagas, he added, giving power to the constellation he traced. Breath turned misty a moment as if inhaled in the snow, and the breeze took a fresher scent. He scrutinized the air around him, like a lingering smoke or colored scent might appear, but the room remained silent and unchanged. Mosa Oriagas, he muttered more forcefully with a similar quick weaving of hand and finger. His eyes went to the dust and wood underfoot this time. Nothing but a lifting and gentle fluttering of dust directly around him. The dust settled again like the silence that surrounded him. Like it was back then, he softly rued. But you came out of nowhere back then, too. A quick glance diagonal where his fair-haired apprentice ducked under a leaning beam, then turned deftly around with hands up. Nothing came at him, and he smiled, crouch-walking on. I was never that young and assuming. Starbin nodded and started a slow trek towards the stair column leading up to the second floor. Basic wooden construction transferred from the wall to steps and rails. He paused to turn at that bottom step. He was sure he was being followed. By someone or something unseen even by his spells. It had been a long day. Maybe his apprentice was right and there was nothing to fear. Starbin frowned and visually followed the burnt jar back from the outer wall to its crash from above, then climbed those steps to peer out upon the second floor. On that second floor, that broken ceiling continued up, surrounded by more mucousy black. Two beams had been broken through. Two others had been snapped and left on a bad lean. Otherwise, walls showed the same bare-bones construction with ample open space. Empty pallets were set up in the distance where his ceiling had fallen through. Feather and rotted insulation had long since settled. Starbin nodded and frowned. Mold caught his nose, and he stalked quietly down the corridor to his right, finding an open room with similar telltale signs of past violence. The broken-through wall on his side had been spotted from outside. In this case, the attacker had burst in from outside, not dropped and raced out. Residual mucus had splashed up into the corner inside around a concentrated burn indent digging into the floor below. His apprentice stepped up beside him and gave the room a distracted glance. It's the same in the next room. There's nothing here. Something must be throwing our search off, or they were about and then left. And yet our search still puts them here. Starbin knelt and touched the floor. His fingers fanned out with his palm cupped. Words were mouthed and eyes closed. When he opened them again, stains long lost to time resurfaced. The floor showed ashen remains and black globs. Blood splatter trailed to walls where 11 had died. The floor showed ashen remains and black globs. Blood splatter trailed to walls where 11 had died, and that burned indent showed a small family where they died, fused with solid wood where the main attack had been. Lifting his hand, his sight retreated from past history to present dust and unimpressive wood. These smaller attacks were connected, Starbin reasoned, but of different sources. This Algrinai attacked and scooped up its particular targets, he suggested, gesturing to the grooved corner indent, leaving the other bodies where they'd fallen. The survivors likely fled to the other rooms where they faced those attackers, or just fled out into the night. Algrinai were known to attack in packs, his apprentice noted skeptically. How do you know they attacked at night? Starbin winced. They were spread out like they were sleeping. He shrugged. Let's give the rest of this place a good look over, then prepare some wards. His apprentice's smirk was evident. I thought only the people down here feared these places anymore. His smirk faded under Starbin's quick, scrutinizing eye. Call it practice, if you will, the older wizard urged, still in his crouch. Call it precaution. If our search is off, there's something down here keeping us from uncovering their true location. And that something seemingly wants us to be here, in this place. His apprentice slowly exhaled. He glanced more warily around. Something unseen and unheard, he mumbled to Starbin's rather pointed nod. And invisible, his apprentice added, staring at the burned flooring and walls with a quick swallow. You realize the last Algrinai was killed 70 years ago. This is all long past now. I've never been quite convinced of that. Starbin stood, allowing his apprentice a brief smile before adding, We still only know a little of what lies beyond the veil. Don't give yourself so freely to accepted truth based on incomplete finds. A stray smell caught Starben's nose, and his head darted around. The smell was gone. Body sweat, burnt syrup, something rich but sour. It was gone as quickly as the sense of being watched had come and gone before. Something was toying with them. Starben had never liked the game of cat and mouse, and he refused to be prey. With a decisive nod, he started towards the other side of the second floor, leaving his young apprentice to sigh and shake his head before following, a foot behind.